There are only two quotes in life that resonates with me. The first one is by Dolly Parton. It says, if you want the rainbow, you gotta put up with the rain. The second states, you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. I was born in one of the poorest countries in the world, Haiti. I was born to a very young mother who had 2 kids, me and my little brother. And it was not by choice, but she loved us to death. I remembered from an early age that my mom would never talk about my dad. One day, I asked my mom, where's my daddy? She said, my daddy's not a very good man, and she's trying to keep me away from him. So there's a few instances where my dad came in my life and tried to take me away from my mom. But my mom would never let that happen. Even though she was like 4'9" tall, she was a very strong woman, and I am forever grateful for her. So to keep me safe from my dad, she decided to put me and my little brother in an orphanage, which, let me tell you, was living hell. Because my mom was like, you're gonna go see one of your friends. And I was like, okay, being 3. So she ended up putting me there and left. There was 400 kids and only one building. You can barely get enough food to eat, and you would get either touched or raped by the staff there. I tried to run away one time, but they caught me and I got very punished by it. I got beaten and raped at the same time. So that was my life there. There was one day that I was jumping rope with my best friend. Her name was Estaline. As we were jumping rope, we felt something from underneath our feet. The ground was shaking and was breaking apart, pulling apart. And I just didn't know what was happening. So they basically took all the kids and put them outside of the orphanage gates where we could be safe from the earthquake. I heard a tiny little noise. It was this little girl. Her name was Tilala. She was screaming for help on the 4th story of the building. Even though everybody else in the orphanage saw her, who was panicking themselves, saw her, but nobody wanted to go and get her. As I was running up the orphanage stairs to get to her, the stairs were crumbling from underneath my feet. So I got to her, but there was no way down. Tilala was crying, and I was holding her in my arms. So finally, I was like, Tilala, it's okay, just calm down. But thankfully for me and her, that her dad and a couple other men saw this, and they came running. They told me to drop her and they'll catch her. So I decided to drop her, and they caught her. So they told me to jump and they'll catch me. As I went to jump, I was wearing a little plaid dress that day, the most horrible dress there is known to humankind. It was stuck in some of the wiring of the building. So I was yanking, pulling, tugging to get loose. Nothing was working. So I finally got loose and I went to jump. But unlucky for me that day, thanks to that stupid dress, I didn't make it in time. So they ran off and left me behind. As I was falling, part of the building slid like this. I just remembered the building landing like that on my legs. But as it landed, it didn't land where it was in a position to squish me, but it landed in such as it landed like this. So there's me at the bottom, and there's my legs, so it landed like this on my legs, but shielding me from the rest of the debris, so like an arc at the top. I can remember how painful it was. I was under the building for like 2 nights. I heard this voice. It was none other than our music teacher at the orphanage. Her name was Noon. She was yelling for help, and she was like, I need help because I'm stuck. So I decided to begin to sing with her. So I was like, do you want to sing our favorite song in music class? And she was like, okay. So we were singing Jésus, oh Jésus, comment pour me faire, pour me sauver. La prière dormi le jour. So that was, she died on dormi le jour, which basically means, Jesus, oh Jesus, what can I do so I can be saved? Pray every day and sleep each night. And I heard her take her last breath and sleep each night. And I can never forget about that. She was one of the caring people in the orphanage. She would sing to us every day and help us out when the adults would hurt us. I loved Nunu, and I can never forget about her. But finally, somebody came. I was yelling for help, and they finally found me. And they're like, okay, Rose, we're gonna get you out of here. And I was like, okay. So what they had to do is draw like an arc and just drag me from underneath. As they were dragging me, I could see my legs. Nobody should have to see their own legs like this. Bones were crushed, but it was still attached. So they took me to the hospital, and finally I got in. The only reason I'm still alive to this day is because somebody died and I took his spot. I'm not grateful that he died, but I'm grateful that I got his spot. So they ended up amputating my legs. But let me tell you, Haiti has no anesthesia, no numbing medicine, and absolutely no painkillers. So I felt absolutely everything when they were cutting off my legs. They just took a giant saw, basically, and started like sawing off my legs. And that was absolutely horrendous. But let's go back like 4 months before the Haiti earthquake. My adopted parents came to visit Haiti. And they were supposed to actually go to a salt factory and help with the salt project in Haiti. Instead, the salt factory had like a major disease outbreak that could be deadly to Americans, so they couldn't go. So instead, this priest took them to visit my orphanage. Out of 400 kids, I was the first one to walk up to my parents and held their hand. I knew it was love at first touch. Instead of love at first sight, it was love at first touch. The moment I held her hand, I knew it was meant to be. Then they had to go later that day, which I absolutely started crying. She was crying, and I was holding her hand through the car window, and she was just bawling her eyes out. I remembered my adopted dad saying to my mom, "Wouldn't it be funny if we adopted this little girl?" And my mom was like, "It would be." And my dad was like, "But we're too old, so we're not going to." So, okay, I guess it was a big surprise to him when I came. 3 months after the earthquake happened, and apparently they heard the news in America that I was hurt in the orphanage, because my mom in America, she called everybody she could just so she could find out I was okay. And she did, and she found out I wasn't okay. So what would take somebody at least 6 years or more to do took her 3 months. So I ended up coming from Haiti to America, and my parents are just the most amazing people there are. I absolutely adore them. I remembered my mom looking at me and she was like, "She's so fragile." Of course I didn't understand it then, but I asked later what she said, and then she was like, "She's so fragile." Coming to America without speaking any English except 2 words, which is hi and I love you, was absolutely insane. Since I was little, I could pick it up faster. I picked it up in less than 3 months. So to everybody out there who are struggling with like mental health, with a disability, with life in general, I want to tell you that you are not alone, and there are obstacles that you can overcome, because life is not fair. There's so much that life can offer, but life can also take away. So to all the people out there watching, please just know you're not alone, and you are absolutely loved, and God will not abandon you. Just like He didn't abandon me, He will not abandon you. Thank you.